not how I like to start a cold morning. So last night, my septic pump alarm went off, and it's been doing so every time it got cold. And I've been trying to figure it out, but basically, looks like one of the diaphragms that's part of my septic pump is very sensitive to cold. and it makes my pump not operate when it gets like this outside. So today we're going to try and build a little bridge and put some insulation down in this hole so that hopefully that pump at the bottom with its diaphragms 1, 2, 3 can stay warm enough when it gets chilly so that it properly operates. Now, before doing this, I did talk with a septic professional and who gave me this recommendation. So my tube here is about 1.5 feet across, and I'm gonna go try and find something that won't rust or corrode that I can wedge in there in a form of a cross pattern, so I can put some fiberglass insulation on top of it and see if we can't make a little coating. The other thing that we're going to try and do is this cover vent vents to the inside. It's got some little vent holes on it, and so we're going to try and plug that up and see if we can't keep this warmer based on the temperature that's down there at the bottom of the hole as opposed to the ambient temperature of the air that's on top. Here goes nothing. So here is my potential solution. I went to the hardware store and I picked up some aluminum so that it won't rust, angle iron in the smallest piece that I could find to save on cost, and some great stuff to fill the top there. I didn't need much. It's only about a 1-inch opening or something like that, so I figure I should be able to do that. I had some extra fluffy insulation, and the basic idea is we're going to cut this to about 18 inches across, maybe slightly larger, so that I can wedge it in there with this guy. And then we're going to put some of this. This is extra insulation. I'm actually going to put the paper side down on the cross and then build some unpapered, where you can just pull the paper off, stacked on top to try and create a nice little volume of insulation to keep the bottom and the pump at a relatively warmer temperature. And then we're going to try and stop some airflow with the great stuff. And that's the plan. It's always a good idea to try proof of concept before actually implementing. So I've got my 2 cut pieces and they will wedge. So we're going to wedge one like that. I'm going to wedge the other kind of like that. And then got a nice piece of fluffy insulation. And so that's going to be my base. And I kept the paper on this one. I'm only going to keep the paper on one for the side down because there's always going to be water at the bottom of this pit. And so if I can, save the insulation a little bit of moisture issues, we're gonna give it a shot. Obviously, it's not a perfect system, and there's still going to be some air that gets through up here. But I'm going to do this a little bit deeper and see if I can't build about 1 foot of insulation as a nice winter cap for my pump down there. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the air sealing. I had to bring this inside because the instructions on this recommend a temperature between 60 and 90 degrees, 75 being optimal. And it was not 75, it wasn't even above, well, it's like 35 outside. And for those of you, so the goal here is going to be to fill this up with this blocker to prevent airflow from these dots from the outside, which feed into this cavity. For those of you wondering if I'm going to be cutting off all airflow, I'm not. As you can see from the sides here, from how the lid mounts and secures, there's still going to be enough airflow to replace any rushing water that might be leaving via the pump. So I'm not going to be creating a vacuum down there. Okay, but here we go. just like that. That should do it. Gonna give that a couple minutes to set up, come back and check on it, and then we're gonna finish the install. And so that's what she looks like. All filled up. There's about a foot worth of fiberglass vat insulation, and then I got my backer and my 2 rods going across. That should hold the insulation nice and towards the top. And without doing anything but that, I'm not sure if it was just, the temperature coming above freezing, but my septic light is now off, and it appears my pump is once again operating properly. So I just gotta install the cap, and hopefully that's job done. This is what she all looks like. We're gonna put it back together, and then I can't do this while holding it, but give it a twist, lock it in place, and job done. No light. Here we go.